All right, folks, Roy here. It's that time of year. We're at the end of June, and beyond the breakers, kayaking and fishing primarily for king mackerel. That's the target primary species. Lot of Spanish mackerel and maybe some jack crevalle. They seem to be heavier in mid to late May and early June, more so. And then as we approach early July all the way through the end of August, sometimes mahi will migrate in as close as we go out 4 or 5 miles, especially if the water clarity is good, grass floats uplifted from the Mexican coastline, and it drifts up. They really like that structure, the mahi do. And I say that with confidence because several years back, our youngest son went with me. We took our 2 TIs, first time B2B for him, and his first saltwater fish was a 32-inch mahi, caught on a kingfish setup on a ribbon fish. Anyway, I apologize up front if this is long-winded and wordy. It's all ad hoc, none of this is scripted, and I really feel, honestly, to get some key points across, I've got to take the time to explain. We're going to start out with rod and reels and line, and then I'll move into the terminal tackle, and I'll try to throw in bits and pieces of why I go with these types of setups. So what we have laying here are several rod and reels, but the 3 that I'm taking offshore with me every time we go is this Penn conventional lever drag 2-speed, and it's quite substantial. I think this one has a 25-pound drag on it. This Penn conflict, it's a 5,000 size spinning reel. It probably has a 18-pound drag on it. This mighty little Penn conventional that I bought a year and a half ago, this Fathom 2 8X star drag. This thing casts a mile, believe it or not. It's an awesome reel. But what's really phenomenal about this reel is it's got a 25-pound drag. The only downside to this reel is line capacity. But for what I do offshore, I find this to be a sweet setup for king mackerel and even red snapper when we target red snapper. And this is my one and only left inshore bass fishing bait caster and rod. This conventional bait caster Ducket T-Rex rod. I love this rod. It's a great rod. And this is a Daiwa Tatula, I think, or whatever. But I've got this out not because I take it, just for size reference. Now, I also have laying here a honkin' BG 8000 Daiwa, big game. Look at the size difference there. I think this is 80-pound Power Pro, and I've got an extra spool for it. And this is the rod that I would mate with at this Rampage. It's got no action to it at all. Well, it says heavy fast for the action, but it's a stick. It's what I would call a meat stick. There's no flex to it at all, no sensitivity to it at all, and really it is a meat stick. This thing here is for fast vertical jigging offshore, 50, 60, 70-pound blackfin, yellowfin tuna, this setup. You do not need this B2B, period. Just do not need it. Don't need it. This rod works really well. It has some horsepower to it. If I live line a Blue Runner or something, it's probably going to be put on this rod. It's the Penn Fathom 25 size NLD2. So it's got a 2-speed. I don't use the speed, change the speed much really. I just have it on the highest torque speed, which is slower retrieve, because I don't need high speed retrieve. I really don't. Now this is on these Tiger Light, or not Tiger, yeah, this is a Tiger Light, but it's not really that light. It's a honking heavy action 14 to 40 pound test line, and I think that's monofilament, believe it or not. 7-footer here. Anyway, this is good for trolling, for king too. Even artificial lure, you can troll with this. The king rig, which I'll get in the terminal tackle for that with the ribbon fish, this works fine. Or live lining, that's what I'll use here. You'll notice too, I've got this little loop here. See that zip tie and that little loop that I made there? That's for my rod leashing. You always want to have everything leashed if you want to keep it. So next up is this spinning reel, and again, it's a 5,000 size. Oh well, let me back up. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. The line on this guy, 40 pound Power Pro, or actually I think this blue is Suffix 832. Now what I have top shot on this, I think this is the best bang for the buck. You can even get it at Academy up here in Austin and Round Rock. You can get you can find more options towards the coast at Academies. This Yozuri hybrid, it's a fluorocarbon nylon hybrid. I've liked the way the knots hold up to this. I've had, personally, I think 100% fluorocarbon is a bit of a fad. And I think if you get some low-end fluorocarbon, it's worse than even kind of middle grade or low-end monofilament. I've had knots fail, just snap on me. But this stuff, good bang for the buck, 40 pound Yozuri. Think of it as like just a high quality monofilament. I have it connected to the backer, the main line, which is 40 pound Suffix 832 via FG knot. Now you're gonna wanna learn how to do an FG knot. If you don't know, you might have another knot. There's several flavors, but I prefer the FG knot. And there's so many channels on YouTube to teach you how to do it. I'm gonna recommend Salt Strong. He just really dumbs it down, and he's got this method where he wraps the braid on his pinky, and he gets a good tightness to that braid, and then he takes that top shot monofilament, lays it over, and loops and loops and loops and loops and loops and loops. Does about 23 times, holds it half hitch overhand once or twice just to lock it in place. And then you get two, I made these for that purpose. Wrap the braid in, wrap the top shot in here, get kind of close, and what you do is you pull that and it starts to cinch it down. It's almost like Chinese handcuffs. It just kind of bites in on that monofilament, and what you want to do is you want to get a nice stretch and then hold it and count to about 13. And what that does is it's stress relaxing and allowing that braid to bed itself into that fluorocarbon and the monofilament. And then when that's done, you can snip off really close the tag end of the top shot, and then do a number of half hitches to build up a nice locking transition where you cut that off. Anyway, FG knot. Then what I do for trolling beyond the breakers, not for snapper offshore, not for other applications with top shot, I put 50 feet of top shot. I think the ideal would be about 45 feet, but I add the extra 5 feet because throughout the day and throughout the season I might be snipping, you know, 6 or so inches off here and there, changing lures, changing rigs. Okay, now I do 50 feet. The way that works out for me and my experience in trolling for kings, and I've caught a number of kings, I'm not saying I've caught the most or anything like that. I'm still kind of mid-tier, mid-career here in doing this, is I'll let that ribbon fish out to my FG knot. Sometimes I go a little more, but sometimes I feel safer to reel that FG knot up to where it's wrapped around my spool a couple times, and then I feel like, you know what, when that king hits it, it's going to strip that FG knot through my guides. Maybe I'll bring it up to where that FG knot is transitioned right here. And what that tells me is I've got 50 feet of line behind my kayak. 50 feet on the first one that I let out, right? Now I go for the rattle trap and I have it on this spinning reel, or maybe I have it on this smaller pin conventional. Not the spinning reel. The conventional's got 50 on it. The spinning reel only has 20, which ideally I think I would only want to have about 10 to 12, but I went ahead and put 20 on it. But let's say I put a rattle trap on this guy. I'm going to let it out, and before I even see that FG knot, but I know it's coming up, I'm going to guesstimate that I'm going to choke it up about 15, 20 feet. So now I'm going to have that rattle trap staggered, going to have my ribbon here and the rattle here choked up, and it's rattling and it's attracting fish here, and they're like, ooh, that's kind of scary, or I don't like that, and it kind of backs off, and then it sees my ribbon and go, hell yeah, and hits the ribbon. That's kind of my philosophy, the way I think about that. At any rate, that's what I do there. This line, this is 30-pound Power Pro. I think my green is Power Pro. 30-pound Power Pro, and the 40-pound Yozuri 50-foot top shot with an FG. This spinning reel is a 5,000 size pin conflict, and it's got 20-foot top shot. I think it's 30-pound Suffix 832 with this 40-pound FG knot top shot. I'm gonna put my bait caster away here. Pardon me for a second. So that's what I take. I see bigger setups, and sometimes I see lighter, but more often I see bigger setups, and a lot of times I do see your 5,000s. But to be honest with you guys, you want to catch a big kingfish, you can do it being static and kind of drifting close to a rig and just throwing over your ribbon fish on a live line type setup and not trolling, because they'll still hit it, just, you know, drift off the boat, they'll hit it. Now if you're real close to that rig and you hook up with a 50 plus inch king and it starts to run, if it runs in a certain direction, here's the rig and here's you, and this king hits it here, or king hits, you're here, the rig's here, and the king hits it here, and it decides to run this way past, and you're drifting this way and it starts to move this way, you're up shit's creek. Not going to be a good situation, and you're going to need horsepower to bring them off of it. But for me, I'm far enough away from the rigs. Trust me, rigs are great, and I'm cutting up bits and pieces of anything I might have and kind of like just throwing it in, you know, behind me. You know, I'm slapping the water with my paddle, making some smacks on the water surface, trying to chum up business, right? But man, hell, even if the state record king hit any of these rigs and I'm away from obstruction, with the proper technique and fighting that fish, you can land them with any one of these setups, even this lighter weight spinning reel. All right, so I think that's enough on rod and reels, except for the fact I'm only bringing 3. You know, a lot of people say, oh man, that's not enough, I need 4, I need 6. Well, the first time I brought 4, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't need 4. But I think what helps greatly for me is really kind of troll with these two and have this standby with what I'll show you with a terminal bucktail if I spot a cobia. So I'll have this ready with a casting jig of some sort, so that's where this setup shines, is troll with an artificial rattle trap, big rattle trap, or a ribbon fish, and then when necessary cast to a cobia or near a bait ball or whatnot. That's the setup I use. So you can make with 2, you could do with 1. You know, 1's a little risky, you end up having a reel failure or a rod break, you're SOL. That's enough rod and reel and line talk. Let's move on to terminal tackle. All right, on to some terminal tackle discussions here. First, I want to go back to ribbon fish, talk a little bit about ribbon fish. They really are king mackerel candy. They love them. They also love Spanish sardines. Rumor has it there's a sardine migration that comes up from the Mexican coast. That's the reason why the kings come in. Well, I've never used frozen sardines with any success because I've never bought them, and a live sardine would be wonderful, but I don't know how to catch them. So ribbon fish, and they're phenomenal. Now the thing about ribbon fish, they come frozen in a plastic bag. They're normally about 18 inches long to 20 inches long, up to 24 inches long sometimes. Keep that in mind. Sometimes they're a little shorter than normal. Keep that in mind. Frozen, 1 dozen in a bag. I don't know how much, 10 bucks. I don't know what they're going for now. One thing to keep in mind, especially if you're new to this and you've never trolled and tried to fish for kings and you're gonna use ribbon fish, don't go buy 4 or 5 dozen, right? Especially the last 4 or 5 dozen. They're in high demand now. Not every bait shop carries them. And I will tell you, I personally, even up to my last trip, have never needed more than a dozen myself. I've brought 2 dozens and completely threw away a dozen and a quarter. I don't know what that would be. That would be 15 or so, right? 1 dozen is all you need, trust me. And before anybody replies, think about this for a second. You put one on and you troll around, and you know, you get hit right away. Well, great, that's 1 king, but a lot of time has elapsed from catching the king, landing the king, rigging the ribbon fish back up, or cutting that off because it's mangled and putting a new one on, and you're on your 2nd one now. Now you could troll around an easy hour and not get any hit, but I think about at the hour point, you need to reel up to see if some smaller fish is taking it off. More than earlier an hour. I'd say if you're trolling a half hour and nothing's going on, reel it up and check it out. It may be gone, it may be kind of tattered, and you're gonna throw it back. So you take 30 minutes, right? Times 12, right? That's 6 hours. That's at the tail end of your entire day trip, and that's just in trolling ribbon fish. 12, I won't say any more. I made this custom bait bag, and what I end up doing, I'll tell you right now, large plastic bottles filled with water, give some room up at the top, a few inches, with the cap cracked, put in your freezer, let it freeze and expand. Make sure you tighten the cap down, because if you forget to do that, as it melts, it's just gonna run out. And those frozen water bottles, the ones, I don't know, whatever flavor you drink or whatever, 20 ounces. I'm not talking about like 16 ounce. Those are kind of small, though, although they're fine too. But you want to have like the 20 to 24 ounce bottles, frozen water. I'll throw one of those in there, put my ribbon fish in here, fold this over, click it, and I got a hook on a rack behind my seat, and this is my bait, and it's fine for the whole day. All right, let's go on to talking about the rigs. Let's talk about kingfish rigs first of all. That's a 3/4 inch. So what I do, someone asked too recently, I forgot which post or whatever, about how you store them. Well, I put them in a freezer Ziploc quart bag. I'll mark some marking on it. This is 3/4 ounce worm weight. And I'm not gonna tell you how to make these. There's plenty of videos. I recommend Professor Salt, Glenn Madden. Although I wanna caveat to a few things that he does that I think is his preference, okay? I do it different, a little different. Anyway, this is Malin wire. I wanna say this is, there's 43, 61, 61, and then 80, right? So this top section is 80-pound Malin wire, solid wire. This section is 61-pound and 61-pound Malin wire. In his build, a couple things are different. These two sections are longer. The reason why I shorten mine a little bit is because I've been stiffed in the past with shorter ribbon fish, and when you got this last one that's too long, it's just kind of waving out there. It just doesn't work. Or if you bend that tail and you put that tail, you hook it at the very end of that tail, this is rigid, it doesn't flex. and that fish just kind of does this in the water as you troll. What you want is you want about 4 inches from the last hook to the edge of the tail. Why? What do you think that would do as you're moving through the water? That tail is going to do this, right? So I shorten these, okay? Also, I think he does like max ½ ounce worm weight. 3/4 ounce to an ounce to even 1.5 ounces, depending on how fast you're moving. I'm in an AI. I could probably afford, especially if there's some wind, and I reef the sail some, so, you know, I don't want to be hauling ass, but, you know, I really probably need closer to 1 ounce to 1.25 ounce. But here's a king rig. That's what it looks like. Pearl babies. If you live anywhere close to a tackle warehouse, I think that's what it's called. The one down in like Sugar Land, I think there's one in Houston too. Get the extra long one. What is this called? Extra long or long? Pearl baby long, XD. Okay, make sure you get the long ones. They sell shorter ones that are only about that long. Get the long ones. They'll pay you back tenfold. Get the long ones. Not gonna tell you how to build them. Use the Spro, swivels, Professor Salt, Glen Madden, right? But that's how I store them. But someone was asking about storing them and hooks and all. These number 4 trebles are dangerous, man. So Amazon, get these protectors. You can get them from Amazon. They snap on pretty good and they're pretty firm. And that's one thing I don't like about it. In fact, they're on there so well, sometimes I have to grab this back size with my teeth and then pull it out, or use my my pliers and pull it out. So that's the king rig. The head of the ribbon fish is here. Ribbon fish, make it as straight as possible. Bam, you're golden, right? Okay. Now, and I basically have, I don't know, probably 6 of them in here. Blake is gonna be like, oh gosh, no man, you need 24. I have 6, okay. I have 6, right? And I have like varying ounces, 1.5 ounce ones here, ones that are a little longer, blah, blah, blah. 1, 2, 3, yeah, I've got 4, just 4, whatever. Okay, so that's that. And see, I got it in this little pouch, right? That's it, man. That's my tackle box. No, I got another tackle box, this one here. Really, the only thing that I bring, right here, this is it. That's what I bring underway, okay? Anyway, so that's the king side, the king rigging, and for ribbon fish, Allen wire stuff. Let me talk a little bit about this rig. There's a guy in South Florida, over there on the Fort Lauderdale side. This is supposed to be a mahi killer, okay? I forgot the name of this top one here, this bullet, because that's the top one. I thought it was the top one. Yeah, thought it was the top one. This thing's a mess right now. Oh man, it's a mess. Let me pause this, I'll be right back. Okay, this thing isn't near as beautiful as it was when I first built it last year, but this is all monofilament, by the way. So you get a toothy critter and it's bye-bye. But anyway, got a Spro, about 1 foot of monofilament, 3/4 ounce lead here to stop her. Oh yeah, some of that started to get kind of gummy. Anyway, there are weights inside these little octopus things. And then you'll see there's a swivel on the J hook, actually, coming down to this guy, coming down to this guy. So it's trolling. I mean, it's like, gosh, it's 5 feet of bling, okay? And by the way, the mahi hits here, J hook. The mahi hits here, J hook. The mahi hits here, J hook. The mahi hits this nice little thing back here. He's gonna be faced with 2 J hooks that are daisy chains, see that? So this is my mahi killer, and I'm a little concerned about it. It's kind of getting gummy on me. But anyway, that's mahi killer. Am I recording? Yeah, I'm recording. Running out of battery too. Oh shit. Is this thing gonna flip on me? Okay. All right, okay. We continue with terminal tackle. I do have some sabiki rigs to catch blue runners and such. I got a jig there. Oh man, I think I forgot some stuff at the workbench. I think. So yeah, I'm gonna probably pause it. Let's talk about some hard baits. All these trolling baits, stick baits. This is a Yozuri Deep Diver, Magnum 20 size. Again, it's got 61-pound Malin hard wire up front. Look at the size of this rattle trap. I'm telling you, this is nowhere near. By the way, if anyone has watched Professor Salt, this is the lure he loves. It's the Halco Max in the bait fish. See the size of this thing? Look at that. A rattle trap, you know, outsizes Professor Salt's favorite lure. I've got a larger version here that's not in bait fish. I don't know what color this is called and what size this is called, but it's substantially heavier. Oh no, I got all the stuff I have here. Again, it's got Kevlar coated red wire. I think this is like 65-pound, double crimp, double loop over, good strong connection there. I've caught kings and Spanish mackerel on these. And then I also have a casting large crocodile. It's pretty heavy weight here. This is like 1.5 ounces, pretty big. Spoon, not a real big spoon kind of guy, honestly. Usually end up catching something like a Jack Crevalle. And then this is the bucktail that I have, and if you look in here, I've got some of this these white grubs here, twist tails, whatever they call them, swirl tail grub. And I see this little hook protector here. That's another thing that's good. I always sharpen my hooks too. I use a hook sharpener. But anyway, this bucktail here, this is a 3 ounce? I can't remember. But if you look here, it's got 2 little wire prongs, hooks. So it's gonna lock that grub into place, put that grub to where it's got a lot of action there on the end. If I see a cobia, this is what's gonna be on that spinning reel, ready to go to cast to a cobia. But this is it for my terminal tackle for the most part, I think. The only other thing, I've got one of those big surface Yozuri surface plugs, shaped like a cigar, like a plug, you know, like a hula popper kind of thing, right? And yeah, there's been just a couple of videos out there showing kings hitting those things and flying out of the water. I think one of them's called something like flying chainsaws or something. And anyway, that's all cool and everything. I might bring it just because, you know, if you have it, you have it. If you don't, you don't. But the point here is choose your own terminal tackle knot to tie to your top shot. I usually use a modified cinch because that's what I grew up on. But yeah, guys, that's it. Oh, I want to talk about these. See these little hook protectors here? I'm gonna press that in, show you how this works. There you go. All right, what I ended up having to do though is use a little Dremel and cut out, because these are kind of thick hooks. These work wonders. Keep your hands safe. I think that's it. I don't want to talk about, you know, where to troll, how to troll. I don't even bring my depth finder. Now, I say if it's your only navigation, definitely bring it. I have a marine radio handheld floating that has navigation, and I've got really great results from it. Bookmarking where I launch on the beach, where I want to go, it just works great. I love it. But my depth finder, you know, the only thing it might be able to help me out with outside of additional navigation is you know, spotting bait on the bottom when I use that sabiki rig to try to catch some live bait. But man, you're in 50 feet of water average and you're trolling. You're trolling. I'm gonna say this too, okay? If your number one goal is just to get through the surf and do B2B the first time, good on you. That's great. Whether you catch fish or not, like the adage goes, you know, a bad day fishing is better than a good day at work. You know, fine, right? But when it comes to fishing, beyond the breakers, in and around the rigs, I will tell you that if you drop down a chunk of squid, if you drop down a small jig or a small spoon, a little smaller than this or about that size spoon, yeah, you're gonna catch some mangrove. You're going to catch some blue runners. You're going to catch snapper that are well undersized. Besides state water, yes, no, state water is still in, but the odds of you catching a 14, 15 inch, whatever the minimum is for state, very low, man, probability. So with that, if you want to catch a big keeper king over 30 inches, man, 38, 40, 45, 50, 52 inch kingfish, the fight of your life, that thing runs, it's like the third fastest fish species in the ocean. I don't know. Blue marlin is one, wahoo is one, and of course one of the sharks, but they're up there in that top 5 probably. They are fast, but what's really interesting about the king is that thing will run, and it'll run and run, and it'll smoke your reel. You better have your drag set off. It'll smoke your reel, and if you get them on one of these double treble with a J hook setups, they're usually set, man. They're not going to get loose. But it's brief, or it's not long lasting. He might only do that for 2 minutes, and then from 2 minutes to 15 minutes to land that fish, he's just a lead weight kind of. And then watch Professor Salt. He's got the most videos landing, you know, you don't even need gloves. You just get it close to the boat, and that thing does a circle counterclockwise or clockwise, and when he comes around and his head passes you, you just grab right in front of the back of that tail and lift, and you got him. No problem. Now cobia, that's another story. I haven't landed a cobia in a kayak, only a boat in Florida back in the early 90s. Mahi, not a problem. Yeah, they're gonna flop a lot, flippity flop. They're like a dink bass, man. Those are the most dangerous when it comes to getting hooks in your hands and stuff. But you're really not going to catch anything significant, in my opinion, if you just kind of go up to the rig, get as close as you can. By the way, I personally don't recommend you tying off from the rig. I personally don't recommend trying to do that. I don't recommend anchoring. That's a whole ball of wax too. You got a long anchor line. You got to have an extra long anchor line. You got all these kayakers with 50 feet and 60 feet of lures trolling all around. Big mess. But if you go up to it and you drop down, you're like, this is my chance to catch something big. If you're using stuff like this, you're just not. If you drop down, you know, a small Jack Crevalle about this big, or a big blue runner with a big hook, and you got one of those big reels, and you got a 1 pound weight to get it down to the bottom of that rig real quick, yeah, Jewfish might be down there. You might have the fight of your life, but you can't keep them, and the odds of that really happening are very low anyway. So you're just not going to catch a big fish doing that this time of year. Now in the winter months, you're not going to be out there in a kayak anyway, but in a boat, yeah, the snapper do move in, the bigger snapper move in. So the only fish that are significant out there that are fun to catch and that you can catch really are the kingfish, Jack Crevalle, but you're not going to keep and eat those unless you need them for shark bait, and cobia, very tough species to target. Okay, the best thing for cobia is something like a blue runner live line, like just literally a 5 foot section of 60 to 80 pound monofilament with, you know, a 6-aught to 8-aught circle hook, a good swivel, and a good rig, and hope that one picks it up. That's, you know, 40, 50 pounds. That'd be awesome. Second best thing is something like sightseeing them and throwing jigs like this bucktail. Mahi, I mentioned mahi, and Spanish mackerel. Spanish mackerel, they're going to hit stuff like this all day long. They're going to hit stuff like this all day long, and they will also hit your ribbon fish. So a lot of information there, a lot of long-winded talk. I appreciate the patience, but if you have any questions, let me know. Blake's a great resource. Professor Salt, Glenn Madden, great resource. There's a number of guys, great resources. They've been doing this for a number of years. They know what they're doing. The final thought before I close this video is this weekend, again, it's, what is it? coming up the end of June. Last weekend we had that tropical depression come through. Beaches were a mess, flooding was going on down there. A lot of tar balls on the beach, but that happens every year, but there's an excessive amount now. I personally feel the fishing report and the water clarity and water conditions for fishing will not be at their best this weekend. We're coming off of a full moon waning, which is good. I would say if we don't have any major disturbances coming the following week, by that time we'll be working close to getting close to a new moon, which is ideal. Fish are not feeding as much in the middle of the night, and if the water clarity clears up some and it's later in the summer, giving some more chance for those mahi to get closer, my personal opinion, that would probably be better. But with our luck, they're forecasting so many hurricanes this year and all the other crap going on with the weather patterns. Who knows? It just might be a you-know-what show here on out. Good luck, tight lines. Hope to see you out there.